Most people today chase strength through complexity. They follow intricate diet plans, punishing workout schedules, routines that demand perfect discipline. The harder it looks, the better it must work. Or, so we think. But in Sardinia, an island off the coast of Italy, people live decades staying strong, with an approach that contradicts everything modern culture sells. They don't complicate, they simplify. Their strength doesn't come from doing more, it comes from living better. No extreme measures, no sophisticated systems. Just 6 daily habits so ordinary they seem unremarkable. And maybe that's exactly why they work. While the rest of the world keeps adding layers of complexity, searching for the next breakthrough method, Sardinians prove that the path to a long, strong life was never supposed to be complicated. It was always meant to be simple. They move naturally every day. Not because they follow a workout plan or track their steps. They move because movement is woven into the fabric of their daily life. Walking to a neighbor's house, climbing the hill to tend a small garden, carrying firewood, fixing a fence. These aren't exercises, they're just what needs to be done. And they do them without thinking about heart rate zones or calorie burn. In Sardinia, movement isn't separated from living. It's not something you schedule for an hour and then sit the rest of the day. It's constant, low intensity, and spread across every waking moment. An elderly shepherd walks several miles daily, not for fitness, but because the sheep need tending. A woman in her 80s climbs stairs multiple times because her home sits on a hillside. The terrain itself demands movement. There are no flat paved shortcuts, just stone paths, slopes, and uneven ground that keeps the body engaged. This kind of movement works because it's sustainable. There's no intensity that demands recovery. No soreness that forces rest days. The body adapts not to extremes but to consistent, manageable effort repeated over decades. Scientists studying longevity call this approach natural movement. It builds strength without breakdown. It keeps joints mobile, muscles engaged, and circulation steady without ever crossing into the territory of stress or strain. Compare this to modern exercise culture. We sit for 8 hours, then try to compensate with an intense hour at the gym. We push hard, rest completely, then repeat. The body never learns rhythm. It learns peaks and crashes. Sardinians don't crash because they never peak. They move at the same steady pace their entire lives. And that pace, maintained over 70 or 80 years, builds a kind of resilience that high-intensity intervals simply cannot. Their movement also stays functional. Every action has a purpose beyond the movement itself. This keeps the mind engaged. You're not just lifting weight. You're lifting something that matters. That psychological component matters more than most people realize. When movement serves a purpose, it doesn't feel like a chore. It feels like living. The lesson here isn't to abandon structured exercise. It's to recognize that the foundation of a strong body isn't built in a gym. It's built through the accumulation of small, natural movements done without strain, without rush, and without end. Walking replaces driving when possible. Stairs replace elevators. Manual tasks replace convenience. None of this is extreme. None of it is impressive. But over time, it creates something no workout program can replicate. A body that stays strong, not because it was trained to endure stress, but because it learned to move as part of breathing, naturally, daily, without effort. They eat the same simple foods, not because they lack variety or access to other options. They eat the same things because those foods work. And when something works, there's no need to complicate it. Their meals don't change much from week to week. Bread baked at home, vegetables from the garden, beans, a little cheese. Occasionally fish or meat, but not daily. Mostly plants, mostly whole, mostly prepared the same way their grandparents prepared them. This repetition does something most people don't expect. It removes decision fatigue. Every meal isn't a new choice to make. There's no browsing menus, no weighing options, no mental energy spent figuring out what to eat. The mind already knows. The body already knows. Lunch will be vegetable soup with bread. Dinner will be beans with greens. Breakfast will be leftover bread with olive oil. Simple, predictable, reliable. Modern eating culture treats variety as a virtue. We're told to eat different things every day, to explore cuisines, to keep meals exciting. But excitement in food often means complexity. And complexity creates stress, even if we don't notice it. More ingredients mean more decisions. More decisions mean more mental load. More options mean more chances to choose poorly. Sardinians bypass all of that by sticking to what's familiar. Their food is also local and seasonal, not because of ideology, but because that's what's available. You eat what grows nearby. You eat what's ready now. This keeps the diet aligned with the environment and limits processed foods simply because they aren't part of the landscape. There's no industrial food system delivering convenience. There's a garden, a market, and what people make themselves. That alone eliminates most of the nutritional problems plaguing modern diets. The quality of their food matters more than the variety. Olive oil is pressed locally. Vegetables come from soil they know. Cheese is made by neighbors. Bread uses flour milled nearby. These aren't luxury items. They're just normal. But normal in Sardinia means real. It means food that hasn't been stripped, refined, or reformulated for shelf life. It means ingredients that retain their original structure and nutrients. Eating the same foods also gives the digestive system consistency. The gut adapts to familiar patterns. It learns what's coming and processes it efficiently. When you constantly shift what you eat, the body stays in adjustment mode. It never settles. Sardinians give their bodies the gift of predictability, and that predictability reduces inflammation, stabilizes energy, and removes unnecessary biological stress. There's a psychological benefit too. When food is simple, it stops being a source of anxiety. You're not counting calories, tracking macros, or worrying about whether you're eating correctly. You're just eating what you've always eaten, what your family has always eaten. That removes guilt. It removes confusion. It removes the mental noise that modern food culture generates constantly. Their approach also discourages excess. When meals are plain, you eat what you need and stop. There's no engineered hyperpalatability pushing you to overeat. No combination of salt, sugar, and fat designed to override satiety signals. Just real food that satisfies without overstimulating. You finish a meal and feel done. Not stuffed, not still wanting more, just done. The strength in their diet isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. Eating well most of the time without effort because the default is already good. No willpower required, no discipline needed. Just a life structured around simple food eaten the same way, day after day, decade after decade. And that's what keeps them nourished without ever thinking about nutrition. They stay close to their community, not in the way we think of community today, as something you join or participate in occasionally. Their community is immediate. It's family living next door. It's neighbors you see every single day. It's the same faces in the same places, year after year, decade after decade. This isn't isolation. It's the opposite. It's being surrounded by people who know you completely and never leave. In Sardinia, social connection isn't scheduled. You don't plan coffee dates or coordinate group activities. You just live near the people who matter, and interaction happens naturally. You pass someone's house and stop to talk. You share a meal because it's lunchtime and they're already cooking. You help with a task because you're there and they need it. The contact is constant, casual, and effortless. It requires no planning because proximity does the work. This kind of closeness creates emotional stability that modern life rarely achieves. When people see you daily, they notice changes. If you're struggling, someone asks. If you need help, it's offered before you have to request it. There's no waiting for the next scheduled call or visit. Support is immediate because the people who care are always around. That eliminates the lag time between needing connection and receiving it. And that lag time, that gap, is where loneliness grows. Modern culture has replaced proximity with occasional contact. We see friends once a month. We call family on weekends. We maintain relationships through effort and scheduling. It works, but it's not the same. There's always a distance to cross. In Sardinia, there's no distance. The people are already there, and that changes how stress is processed. When something difficult happens, you don't carry it alone until the next planned interaction. You share it immediately because someone is always nearby. The depth of these relationships also matters. Sardinians aren't building networks of acquaintances. They're maintaining lifelong bonds with the same small group. You've known these people since childhood. You've shared decades of ordinary moments. That history creates trust and understanding no new friendship can replicate. You don't have to explain yourself. They already know. That familiarity reduces social friction and removes the performance many relationships require. There's also a biological impact. Studies on longevity consistently show that social isolation increases mortality risk as much as smoking or obesity. The body responds to loneliness as a threat. It raises cortisol, weakens immune function, and keeps the nervous system on alert. But when you're embedded in a stable community, the body registers safety. Stress hormones drop, inflammation decreases. The system relaxes because you're not facing the world alone. Sardinians also experience less existential loneliness. They're part of something continuous. Their family has lived in the same village for generations. They know their role. They know their place. There's no searching for meaning or belonging because both are already given. This removes a layer of anxiety that many modern people carry without realizing it. The question of where you fit is already answered. Their communities also enforce consistency. When the same people see you daily, your habits stabilize. You're more likely to maintain routines because others notice when you don't. There's gentle accountability without judgment. If you usually walk at a certain time and don't show up, someone checks. That kind of social structure supports health without demanding it. The lesson isn't to abandon modern life and move to a village. It's to recognize that human beings weren't designed for isolation or superficial connection. We need depth. We need proximity. We need people who stay. And when we have that, the body and mind both benefit in ways no wellness program can replicate. They don't rush through life, not because they have more time or fewer responsibilities. They don't rush because rushing was never part of the culture. There's no constant pressure to move faster, do more, or squeeze productivity from every moment. Time unfolds at its own pace, and they let it. In Sardinia, meals aren't eaten quickly between tasks. They're events. You sit, you talk, you take time. Work doesn't happen under deadline pressure unless absolutely necessary. If something takes longer, it takes longer. There's no manufactured urgency pushing everything forward. The rhythm is slower, steadier, and far less anxious than what most modern people experience daily. This matters more than it seems. Rushing triggers a biological response. When you're constantly hurried, your nervous system interprets that as danger. The body releases stress hormones. Heart rate increases. Digestion slows. The mind stays alert, scanning for the next thing that needs attention. This response was designed for real threats, but when it's activated all day, every day for years, it wears the body down. Chronic stress becomes the baseline, and that baseline erodes health silently over time. Sardinians avoid this by refusing to operate under constant urgency. They don't fill every hour. They don't optimize every minute. There are gaps in the day, moments where nothing particular is happening. Time to sit, time to watch the landscape, time to do nothing productive at all. Modern culture sees this as wasted time, but the body sees it as recovery. Those pauses let the nervous system reset. They give the mind space to process without input. They allow the stress response to turn off instead of running continuously. The way they approach work reflects this too. Tasks are done thoroughly, not quickly. If you're building something, you build it right. If you're tending plants, you give them the attention they need. Speed isn't the goal, quality is. And quality requires patience. This mindset eliminates the frantic energy that dominates modern work culture. There's no racing against the clock, no cutting corners to meet arbitrary deadlines. Just steady progress at a sustainable pace. Even conversation moves differently. People don't talk over each other or rush to make their point. There's space between thoughts. Pauses aren't awkward. Silence is comfortable. This creates a social rhythm that's calming rather than stimulating. You're not performing. You're not competing for attention. You're just present without pressure to move the interaction forward faster than it wants to go. This unhurried approach also protects decision-making. When you're rushed, you make choices reactively. You don't have time to think things through. You go with the fastest option, not the best one. But when time isn't pressing, you can consider. You can weigh options. You can choose thoughtfully instead of impulsively. Over a lifetime, that difference compounds. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. And better outcomes reduce the need to fix mistakes, which eliminates another source of stress. The modern world glorifies speed, fast responses, fast results, fast everything. But speed has a cost. It drains energy. It creates errors. It keeps the body in a state of low-level panic that feels normal until you experience the alternative. Sardinians live the alternative. They move through life without hurry. And that absence of rush, sustained over decades, gives the body and mind room to stay strong. Not because they're doing something extraordinary, but because they're not doing something harmful. They're not racing. They're not chasing. They're just living at the pace life was always meant to be lived. Slowly, naturally, without pressure. They keep a purpose in their daily life. Not grand ambitions or career goals, just small, meaningful tasks that give each day direction. Even in their 80s and 90s, Sardinians don't stop. They still tend gardens. They still care for animals. They still help family. They still contribute. There's always something that needs doing, and that something gives them a reason to get up every morning. Purpose doesn't have to be profound to matter. It just has to be real. An elderly man walks to his vineyard each day to check the vines. A woman bakes bread for her grandchildren. Another feeds chickens. These aren't monumental tasks, but they're necessary. And necessity creates structure. It gives the day shape. It provides a reason to move, to think, to engage. Without that, time becomes empty. And empty time erodes both body and mind. Modern culture often treats aging as the end of usefulness. People retire and suddenly have nothing required of them. No schedule, no responsibilities, no one depending on their contribution. This is sold as freedom, but for many, it becomes isolation. The body stops moving because there's no reason to move. The mind stops engaging because there's nothing demanding attention. And both decline faster than they would if purpose remained. Sardinians never experience that shift. They don't retire from life. They might slow down, but they don't stop. The tasks adjust to their capacity, but the tasks continue. A shepherd who can no longer walk long distances still tends a smaller flock. A farmer who can't lift heavy loads still plants seeds. The role changes, but it doesn't disappear, and that continuation keeps them active in ways retirement often doesn't. There's also a psychological component. When you have something to do, you have something to live for. That sounds dramatic, but it's measurable. Studies on purpose and longevity show that people with a sense of daily meaning live longer. Their immune systems function better. Their cognitive decline slows. They report higher life satisfaction. Purpose isn't optional for well-being. It's foundational. And Sardinians maintain it naturally because their culture never removes it. The tasks they perform also connect them to others. When you bake bread, someone eats it. When you tend a garden, someone benefits from the harvest. When you help repair something, someone's life improves. This reinforces the feeling that you matter, that your presence makes a difference, and that feeling combats the invisibility many elderly people experience in modern society. They're not sitting on the sidelines, they're still in the game. Purpose also keeps the mind sharp. Every task requires thought, planning, problem solving. Even simple activities like caring for plants demand attention and adaptation. You notice when something's wrong, you adjust, you learn. That ongoing mental engagement prevents the stagnation that accelerates cognitive decline. The brain stays active because it has to. There's always something requiring its attention. The physical benefits matter too. Purpose drives movement. If you need to check on animals, you walk. If you need to prepare food, you work with your hands. If you need to fix something, you bend and lift and balance. These aren't exercises. They're just what the task requires, but they keep the body functional in ways sitting idle never could. Sardinians don't talk about purpose as a concept. They just live it. Every day there's something small that needs doing, and they do it. Not because they're chasing longevity or trying to stay healthy, but because the task is there. And being useful, staying engaged, contributing in small ways, that's just what life looks like. It always has, and it continues until it can't. That's the difference. They don't stop living on purpose. They live with purpose until the end. They don't overcomplicate things. Their homes are simple. Their possessions are few. Their choices are limited. And that limitation isn't deprivation. It's freedom. Freedom from the constant mental burden of managing excess. Freedom from decisions that don't matter. freedom from the noise that comes with owning, maintaining, and organizing more than you need. Walk into a Sardinian home and you'll notice what's missing. There's no clutter, no rooms filled with items rarely used, no closets packed with clothes that don't get worn. What's there serves a purpose: a table, chairs, a bed, cooking tools, the essentials. Nothing decorative for decoration's sake. Nothing kept just because it might be useful someday. If it's not actively part of daily life, it's not there. And that simplicity creates space. Physical space, mental space, emotional space. Modern life operates differently. We accumulate, we collect options, we keep things because we can. More clothes than we wear, more kitchen gadgets than we use, more furniture than we need. And every item we own carries a small cognitive load. It needs to be stored, cleaned, organized, remembered, maintained. That load is invisible until you remove it. But Sardinians never carry it in the first place. They've structured their lives around less. And less means more energy available for what actually matters. This principle extends beyond possessions. It applies to decisions. Sardinians don't agonize over choices because there aren't many to make. Meals follow patterns. Routines repeat. Paths are familiar. There's no daily question of what to wear, where to go, what to eat, how to spend time. The answers are already known. This isn't boring, it's efficient. It eliminates decision fatigue before it starts. And decision fatigue drains willpower faster than almost anything else. Research shows that every decision we make, no matter how small, depletes mental resources. By the end of a day filled with choices, we're exhausted, not from physical effort, from the accumulated weight of deciding. Sardinians bypass most of that by living within established patterns. The day unfolds predictably. That predictability conserves mental energy, and that energy can then go toward things that actually require thought. Problem solving, connection, presence. Their simplicity also reduces stress in another way. When you own less, you worry less. There's less to protect, less to lose, less to maintain, less that can break or need replacing. The mind isn't constantly tracking threats to possessions or calculating costs of upkeep. It's quieter, calmer, focused on the present instead of managing an inventory of things. This approach also limits comparison. When everyone lives simply, there's no status race, no pressure to upgrade, no need to signal wealth through accumulation. You're not measuring yourself against what others have because no one has much. That removes a massive source of modern anxiety. The feeling that you're falling behind, that you don't have enough, that you need more to be acceptable. Sardinians don't experience that because the culture doesn't create it. Their lives are also more practical because of this. When something breaks, it gets fixed. When something wears out, it gets replaced with the same thing. There's no browsing for better options. No researching alternatives, no upgrading for the sake of newness. Just replace what's broken with what works. Simple, direct, done. The lesson here isn't to throw everything away. It's to recognize that complexity costs energy. Every additional thing you own, every extra choice you face, every layer of complication you add to your life, drains a little more from you. Sardinians stay strong partly because they never drain themselves unnecessarily. They keep life simple, and simple doesn't mean less. It means space. Space for rest, space for thought, space for living without constant friction. That's the power of refusing to overcomplicate. Their strength doesn't come from anything extraordinary. It comes from repeating simple things, moving naturally, eating the same foods, staying close to people who matter, refusing to rush, keeping purpose in every day, and never overcomplicating what doesn't need to be complex. While the rest of the world searches for breakthroughs, advanced methods, and optimized systems, Sardinians proved that the answer was never hidden in complexity. It was always sitting in plain sight, in the ordinary, in the consistent, in the things so simple they seem too easy to work. But they do work, not because they're extreme, because they're sustainable. And sustainability, repeated over decades, builds something no short-term intensity ever could: a long life, a strong body, a quiet mind. That's what simplicity creates. If this resonated, subscribe. More clarity is coming.